As the fallout continues over DOJ's move to drop the corruption case against Mayor Eric Adams, protesters gathered outside the offices of New York Governor Kathy Hochul this morning, demanding that she remove Adams from office. The protests come as the governor met with top New York City leaders today on just exactly what that would look like. And it follows her strongest indication yet that she just might remove Adams. The mounting pressure comes after 4 of Adams' top deputies, the city's highest-profile public servants, announced their resignations on Monday. It followed 7 top DOJ prosecutors, including ones directly involved in Adams' case, resigning last week in protest. And a federal judge calling for Adams' attorneys and DOJ prosecutors to appear in court tomorrow to explain the request to dismiss criminal corruption charges against the mayor of New York, which included allegations of free plane tickets, luxury hotel stays, and illegal campaign contributions, allegations Adams denies. While this might seem like another New York City corruption story, the drama over Adams' legal case played out as the mayor met with Trump's border czar in New York and announced increased cooperation with Trump's efforts to remove undocumented migrants, making this story of great national importance because of the potential of a quid pro quo. Set aside the fact that New York City is the most populous city in the country, the city with the largest GDP in the country, the financial engine of the United States, the city with the most migrants, and home to the most linguistically diverse population in the world. Set all that aside. What's happening here deserves special attention because it is representative of a larger pattern that we're seeing from the Trump administration, where compromised people control compromised people in a pyramid scheme that ultimately leads to Elon Musk. Joining me now is New York City Comptroller Brad Lander. He's running for mayor, and in a letter to Mayor Adams, Lander urged him to present a clear contingency plan for how to manage the city and stabilize his administration, or he'll convene a panel that could remove him from office. Mr. Lander, thank you so much for being here. How would that work? Because it seems to me that the governor has certain powers of removal. Does this panel have the same potential powers?
So, of course, what we want is for the mayor to articulate how he can govern the city when he's already compromised by the president, and now without the 4 key deputy mayors that supervise the police, the fire department, homeless services, NYCHA. There's going to be a snowstorm Thursday, even the sanitation department. The New York City Charter has what's called a Committee on Mayoral Inability. And if 4 out of 5 individuals on that committee conclude that the mayor is unable to perform the duties that the city charter assigns him, then they together can sign a form that goes to the city council. The council has 3 weeks to consider it. And if 2/3 of council members agree that the mayor is unable to perform his duties, then he would be removed from office.
And are you on that committee? Because you're running for mayor, so one might think you shouldn't be on that committee.
I mean, look, the charter assigns the comptroller, which is the chief financial officer of the city, one of those positions. Also, the speaker of the city council, one of the borough presidents, and then 2 people appointed by the mayor. So it's a pretty high bar: the corporation counsel, the top lawyer, and a deputy mayor. So look, if 4 of those 5 people were to conclude that he's unable to do the job, that would be quite significant. You would still need 2/3 of the city council. And to be clear, I haven't called for that committee to meet yet. What I called on the mayor to do is put a contingency plan forward and tell us, with your 4 top deputy mayors resigning, how are you going to do the job that you have to do for New Yorkers?
Let me read you what he said had to say so far, other than calling the charges against him, called for him to step down, a modern-day Mein Kampf, which is just weird. His attorney wrote this letter. There's a reason that the Justice Department does not prosecute sitting presidents. And while a mayor is not a president, Mayor Adams is nonetheless the leader of this country's largest city and needs to be an important partner to the president and his administration. An honest balancing of these concerns against unsupported prosecution theories in this case militates strongly in favor of dismissal. That was a letter to Donald Trump's Department of Justice. Mayor Adams is not the president of the United States. What do you make of that letter?
I mean, Mayor Adams was elected to represent New Yorkers, not to work for Donald Trump. That's what this is all about. The Justice Department is trying through dangling this removal over his head to say, you're not going to work for New Yorkers, you're going to work for us. You could see it when he and Holman were on Fox and Friends. You can see it in the way the mayor is acting, and that's why I felt like it was critical. That's why those 4 deputy mayors, all of whom are appointed by the mayor himself, they feel compromised. Their job is to work for New Yorkers, to pick up the garbage, to keep our streets clean, to keep us safe, not to work for Donald Trump on his mass deportations. That really is what's at stake here.
Well, if the governor were to remove Eric Adams, walk us through what would happen. Who would then govern the city of New York?
Yeah, so if the mayor would resign, which is what I think he should do, or if the governor would remove him, or if the Inability Committee and the city council would act, in any case, the public advocate of the city of New York, Jumaane Williams, would become the interim mayor. He could keep those 4 deputy mayors, and they could keep doing their job running the city on a day-to-day basis. We do have an election coming up. There's a primary in June and a general election in November, and I am a candidate for mayor because I believe we need new leadership at City Hall. That's supposed to be for next year, of course, what comes from the election. But the question is the mayor able to perform his duties for New Yorkers now, or does he work for Donald Trump instead?
And working for Donald Trump, I mean, the idea of, reports of Rikers Island being opened up for use for migrants, of the administration taking away money that was used to house, homeless migrants that have been sent, in some cases, from Florida and Texas into New York City. Walk us through what Mayor Adams is doing that makes it appear to you that he actually works for Donald Trump rather than for the people of New York.
Yeah, those are 2 great examples. So last week, Elon Musk reached his hand into our bank account and stole $80 million that belongs to the city of New York that the federal government gave us. And I raised the alarm bell. The mayor could barely be found to say that's money that New Yorkers need to pay our bills. Thankfully, his chief lawyer went into court when I threatened to do it myself. And then when the mayor was running a few years ago, he said he would abide by the city's laws that make sure we don't overly collaborate with ICE. But now he said he's happy to open an ICE center up on Rikers where they would be looking to take people who have not yet been convicted of any crime and deport them. So those are both places where he's putting Donald Trump's interests over the interests of the New Yorkers who elected him.
It is a strange, strange world that we live in. New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, thank you so much. Please keep us apprised of what is going on in the great city of New York. Thank you.